Welcome everyone to this webinar on the Roadmap 2050 towards regenerative yachting. We're here in the studio of Super Yacht Times, so thank you Marijn and the team for lending us this space. So Water Revolution Foundation got founded in 2018 to help the yachting sector reduce its environmental impact and better look after the oceans that we love. Now, 7 years later, we are launching a roadmap towards 2050 to achieve a regenerative yachting sector. Today, we explain what the Roadmap 2050 exactly is, why it is important, what it does prescribe, and how we're actually going to succeed. The goal of the roadmap is to create a compass, to navigate together in these certainly unchartered waters. So it is a collaborative approach we need. We need to work in a coordinated way, working on the same goals. So we would like to break down this session into several topics. First of all, the yachting industry is a continuously growing industry. The fleet has been built in the last few decades and continues to grow. According to Super Yacht Times data, this fleet of yachts over 30 meters is growing by 170 units per year, meaning that with 6,000 yachts currently in the fleet, we're almost doubling by the time we arrive at 2050. So yachting is quite unique in the wider maritime sector for a growing fleet. Yachts don't disappear. Yachts continue to be built. So we need to take care not only of the new build yachts to be far advanced technology-wise, but also to take care of the existing fleet. If we look at the roadmap, there's the x-axis in the graph. That shows the timeline towards 2050. Below the x-axis is the negative impact of our industry, so to say the footprint. It's calculated in CO2 equivalent. That's spread in 4 categories. Those 4 categories resonate with the life cycle of a yacht. Starts with design, then it gets built, then it's in operation, it gets refitted, and the flow or the cycle of operation and refit continues for the lifetime of the yacht, which is undefined. Above the x-axis is the positive impact that we need to invest in to offset the negative. So it's the mirror of what you see below the x-axis. With the roadmap, we identify how we actually can succeed in doing that. And that's with a 3R model. We use reduce, actions, in order to do less of what we currently do. Then there are the remove actions, actually doing things differently, more bio-based materials, for instance. And there's the R of restore, something very important to do. We need to compensate the negative impact that we have, not at the starting point, but certainly at the end. So after our reduction and remove actions, certainly we need to restore our negative impact. So we have been doing a sample, quite a unique data sample with designers, shipyards, operators and refit yards to see how much energy, waste and water is being used throughout the build and the refit process. Design is covering the materials, so also the systems on board. So that's everything pre-built, so to say. So design is a very wide topic here. So it's everything of contracting, engineering, specs, it's everything pre-built process. The operation is obviously the annual operation of the fleet in terms of energy consumption, fuel consumption, but also shore power. Because yachts, we know the operational profile by now, 10% of the time they're actually cruising, 30% more or less they are spending time on anchor, and more than 50% of the time they spend in the marina. So we assume that they are connected to shore power. Therefore, the shore power connection is important too. So looking at the graph, if you look at 2025, that's the estimated division of the pie, the impact pie. So the first chunk is for design, then build, refit and operation operation is obviously the biggest piece of the pie. So it's the fuel consumption, energy consumption of the yachts. And that needs to come down. But the fleet continues to grow. So the trajectory of the amount of yachts is increasing, and therefore, quite logically, the absolute impact. But the impact needs to come down. So the targets that we set for this roadmap need to be quite ambitious to not only get new build yachts more advanced and on a trajectory down in terms of impact, we also need to take care of the existing fleet. So we have a lot of work to do as an industry, but how to get there? What is expected from us in 2030, in 2035, in 40? We actually, with this data exercise, we calculated back. So we started 2050, when that needs to be net zero. What do we need to do in steps of 5 years, starting in 2025, to reach net zero in 2050? And sometimes those are quite confronting targets. But as we said, this growing fleet and also the current order portfolio is there, and we need to get on a trajectory down. So there's a lot of work to do. With design, operation, build, and refit, we touch all stakeholders in our industry. Everybody has a role to play. The division of the pie is not only to make sure everyone involved feels a responsibility and is able to take a responsibility, also knowing what the quantified impact is, but then also working together on next steps to start on this trajectory downwards. The roadmap is not a contract. These are voluntary targets. And the role of Water Revolution Foundation has been to quantify these targets. What do we need to expect and work on in 2030, in 2035, towards net zero in 2050? Of course, there are many professionals in our industry that maybe not even work actively in this industry anymore by 2050. So we need to have very clear targets for every generation of industry professionals to work on, to work together on, and maybe even compete on. Because in the end, we need to accelerate progress to get on this trajectory. But now we're going to talk about the mirror above the x-axis, so the positive impact investments. You see carbon sink, you see biodiversity, you see soil and water. Those are affected by our negative impact and therefore require our investment, not as philanthropy, but as completing the business approach. So we need to reduce our environmental footprint, but whatever is left, we certainly need to compensate. And when we reduce the negative impact, which is shown below the x-axis, we can also reduce the amount of investment to offset negative impact. That's what this graph is showing. But you see above the positive impact investment, you see nature positive. So if you do more, if you invest more than offsetting negative footprint, you actually arrive at a nature positive impact, which is feasible and accomplishable, and probably for the yachting leisure industry, a good thing to do. We need to better look after our oceans, not only for life on the planet, but also to continue this yachting lifestyle that we cater for and that our clients are interested in enjoying. So that means we have to continue investing. We can do that now. We can actually accomplish net zero today or tomorrow, as long as we invest in that offsetting of negative impact. Again, that is not the first thing we should do or we should invest in. We can also utilize the investment to reduce our negative impact, but certainly it is the last thing we need to do. We need to offset our negative impact to reach net zero. When we talk about positive impact investment, it means supporting projects that are effective. And effective means transparent, the most positive impact for your investment. And in order to help the yachting community doing that, Water Revolution Foundation also launches a program called Ocean Assist. It's coming this summer. You can already find more information on our website. But in essence, this program is here to help doing the due diligence. So we work with a scientific advisory board that reviews all projects that qualify the criteria. So these projects are trustworthy, transparent, effective projects to invest in for the yachting community. That's how you can invest in positive impact. Okay, let's have a look at the targets. It starts in 2025. Then the next step is 2030. There are some ambitious targets set there. We know that this is confronting. This is maybe seen as unrealistic. But again, we have calculated back from net zero in 2050. And it is not always a convenient story. But this should trigger action, collaboration, competition perhaps. So take for instance the targets for design, product design, yacht design. We know how to assess and compare environmental performance of yachts. That's what the YETI, Yacht Environmental Transparency Index, industry project led to. It's a method and now even a software tool. It has a reference line as a benchmark. And now the designers are challenged to design this amount of yachts below the reference line. That's the target. In order to keep progressing towards 100% of yachts below this reference line in 2050. If we take the existing fleet, 30% of the existing fleet to swap to alternative fuels, that is an ambitious target. We know that there's also a solution that is one of the most effective, affordable, and significant solution for the existing fleet. An alternative fuel called HVO. HVO is able to reduce 90% of CO2 emissions compared to regular diesel. We know that there are concerns about availability or perhaps even the certification of the product. And while not neglecting that, we believe that HVO is readily available for yachts that want to swap. For the energy consumption, we have the YETI tool that's able to help existing yachts and new build projects to optimize the yacht's environmental performance for the average found operational profile. This is about systems. Yachts are operated by crew, professional crew. In their daily operations, there are possibilities to improve efficiency, energy consumption, waste. For those actions, we have written for and by crew the environmental crew guidelines, helping the daily operation of the yacht. Where are opportunities to reduce energy? How can we avoid waste? How can we save water? When we look at the targets for the build, these targets are only for the build process, because that's where the builders have 100% influence on. When we look at the product, though, there are more parties involved. So the targets set for build are only process-based: energy, waste, and water. So if we look at refit, that's also only looking at the refit process: energy, waste, and water of the refit process, times the amount of yachts that go through refit facilities on a yearly basis. We know that yachts have these 5 annual inspections for class. Those occasions are mostly used for significant refit. Hopefully also already or in the near future for environmental upgrades to the yachts. But for refit, the targets are set on the process only. So the roadmap targets also include targets for the restore part, currently focused on the existing fleet, to the yacht owners. We advise to dedicate a percentage of the annual operational cost of the yacht, the annual operational budget of the yacht, to ocean conservation. And we're here to help. Our Ocean Assist program will advise you where to invest most effectively. But we need to move on from only philanthropic support to oceans that we love, really making it a yachting community investment program, a blue carbon finance mechanism, looking after our oceans in a structural way beyond a philanthropic donation only. We need to accelerate in order to achieve these targets. It's not a contract, but what we hope to achieve is a sign-up, a adoption of this roadmap, not only on the company level, but perhaps as a stakeholder group, builders, yacht managers, designers. Adopt and embrace these targets and start working together and making these targets coming to real in terms of policies, goals, and set these targets on a project level as well. What if we can actually accomplish these targets and maybe even further? We believe that this is possible, but it requires commitment and it requires to have a look at the existing business models. This is not a feature. This is not tweaking something. This is significantly rethinking your business approach, the yachting's approach at large. These targets are set to give direction, to have a coordinated direction. The roadmap is a compass, as we said, to navigate unchartered waters. Everybody is new to this. In this way, we know what to work on and what quantified improvements we need to make. And don't forget, if there's remaining impact after these reduction efforts, that is to be compensated to reach net zero at any time. Leading up to the launch of this Roadmap 2050, we had 3 editions of the Business Leaders event, a strategic industry gathering of industry CEOs. The 3rd edition was where the roadmap got adopted. Top 60 CEOs of the yachting industry gathered in Italy. The roadmap was presented and interactive sessions were organized, not to question whether we need this roadmap, but how are we going to succeed with this roadmap. The business leaders understand very well that we need action, going in the right direction, going in the same direction, working together. We need to progress towards 2050, and net zero is the logical target for the yachting industry. Thank you very much for joining us for this webinar. We hope that you have been inspired to take action. So whether you are involved in design, build, operation, refit, get involved, become active. We are starting now these sessions with these stakeholder groups to work with the targets. Do they work? Are they feasible? How do we collect the data? How can we monitor progress? So please get involved, find more information on our website and reach out to us. We look forward to working with you. Thank you.